What's the lifespan going to be before this evaporates or evolves into a completely different form?
Yeah, you can always tell the lifespan of something when you know it's no longer the golden age to get in. It's when somebody who has no business doing it starts doing it. So, when your uncle decided to start flipping houses and he's never did anything in real estate in his life, that was when you knew the bubble was going to pop, right? When, your brother-in-law started buying tech stocks in 2000, that's when you knew the bubble was going to pop. That was the dot-com pop, right? So at each point in history, when people who have no business start talking about fulfillment by Amazon, that's when you know it's coming down the pipeline. And it isn't there yet. I think it's going to be another 3 to 5 years. But I said that 3 to 5 years ago, and it's still wide open. My biggest regret in my life is that I can't get enough people to do this. Because if they actually listened to me, we would be there right now. But people are reluctant to change, and that's the greatest downfall of humanity, is we would rather be miserable but comfortable in our misery than to take a chance and be happy.
Have you written a book on this? I mean, how does someone learn how to do this?
Yeah, we've been around all the major courses that have taught this, and we've been a proponent and cheerleader of those, and then we decided to finally do it on our own. Because I never wanted to be an educator. I just wanted to help people do it. So we're kind of forced in this role. So if you look up a course called Search, Find, Buy, that's our thing. And that's what I would recommend you go through. And the reason we call it Search, Find, Buy is because that's how people shop on Amazon. They search for something. Once they find it, they buy it. So Search, Find, Buy is our definitive guide. And we pretty much we've laid the groundwork for what's effective on Amazon. And then 3 or 4 years later, the rest of people finally catch up. But we typically are the trendsetters because I obsess over Amazon as a search engine, as an algorithm. I read the patents on it. I read every piece of information possible, and then I field test over 15,000 sellers my wacky theories. And occasionally we find one that works really well, and then we use that. But it's kind of like this. If you sat down in front of a safe that had 5 combinations, of 0 through 10, right? That is literally 100,000 different possibilities of what it could be to crack that safe. If you started going 00001, 0002, et cetera, right? One person doing that could take years or decades. But imagine you had 1,000 people and you divided them up and you each gave them a section of numbers and you had them work together. We will crack that safe. We will open that safe. And that's essentially how we treat Amazon. It's just a number. We're twisting numbers and dialing it in and trying to open the safe, and every so often we figure it out. But what we're doing is we're smart enough to realize once we do figure it out, we document it, we work backwards, we validate it, and then it becomes a process. And so yeah, I can be wrong 999 times, but if I'm right the 1,000th time, it pays for all. And that's what we do at Search, Find, Buy.
So you actually have a group of people who are leaning on one another rather than working on their own?
Yeah, and this is something to be said about how enterprise works and how wealth truly is made and how money truly is made. I never expected that, but what happened is over the years, I built all these different information products and sold them and trained them, and people trusted me, and they got a good experience. And so when I told them, hey, I'm going to show you something that's a 180, it's not like anything we've ever taught you before, it's a physical product stuff, not digital products, they trusted me enough. And then when they bought the first iteration of this, I said, now I know this is going to be weird, but this seems to be the way it works on Amazon. And they trusted me enough to try it. And it was that trust that was the difference, because otherwise I don't think we could have ever kind of assembled and crowdsourced this information without me spending 7 years first winning the trust of this core customer base by servicing them in advance. And that's really how money is made. But yeah, we assembled a collective group of people, and then we try to solve every problem. It goes back to that find a problem and solve it mentality. People have trouble sourcing products in China. So what do? We actually hired people in China, brought them into our company, and all they do for us is source products for our clients. And then instead of charging them, we just put it in as a bonus with our course. And every so often we continue to do that. We try to find what's the biggest limitation that's stopping somebody from being successful sooner rather than later. And let's engineer a solution. Then how do we make that either free or part of the product or something that will output more than what you have to input into it to make it work?
It's interesting from your position that you've trained 15,000 people to do this. And I know in 15,000 there's 20% of that, about 3,000 people who are going to end up doing about what the other 80% are doing. I know you spend a lot of time with concern over those 80% of people who can't seem to move, and you've researched what their mindset is. How do you address that, and how do you create the right mindset that might even allow success?
Yeah, so I heard it said best is 50% what you know, and it's 50% how you feel about what you know. And if you have the best plan, which I think what we have is the best plan, but you have the wrong type of mindset, you're going to lose no matter what. So the typical mindsets that I see that prevent people from being rich is one is they associate that with greed or guilt, or if I make money, that means I'm taking away something from somebody else, like it's a zero-sum game or something. And that's sad to me because it's actually the opposite. The way that you can do it is you can make somebody better and you can get rich. And in fact, oftentimes that's how it really works. Very rarely do you get rich by taking advantage of other people. That's the hardest way to get wealthy. I don't recommend it. It's so much easier because somebody will say, I'll give you an example is if somebody can't sleep at night, sleep to them, which is an intangible thing, what would they exchange monetarily for that to get that sleep at night and still feel like they got the best deal ever? And think about it like this. If you had a piece of information that they paid $20 for and all of a sudden they could sleep again at night, who got the better deal there? The sleeper did. But think about that. You're like, $20 if I solve that person's problem? What if I solve that for 1 million people? I just made $20 million. Who got the better end of the deal? 1 million other people. Who made 20 million? I did. And that's how we just try to approach wealth. And then it becomes really easy to make money and to get excited about making money. When I realize Amazon wants my products, they need my products to help achieve their goal. Clients want more options, so we should give them that. And then we get rewarded because we put ourselves last in this process. I don't see a better way of living life. But it's also set up that that's also the most surefire way to get wealthy. You know what's hard to get wealthy? Buying a lottery ticket. But why? Because you're trying to get something for nothing. I'm not for that. But a lot of people want the outcome. And so the idea is, how can we make it so that way whatever we do adds good to the world, and can we still get rich in this? And trust me, I'm not a kumbaya type of person. I'm not a hippie, right? I am a very much hardcore, shrewd capitalist. I've just found, pragmatically speaking, the best way I can get rich is by helping other people in a way with whatever I help them. They think they're ripping me off by exchanging money, which is a tangible good, for something that's intangible. But if you feel like you're doing something wrong by trying to make money, I guarantee you'll sabotage yourself in one way, shape, or form. So any success you get will be temporarily. So I recommend that if you are having money issues, don't try to hide them or don't try to pretend they don't exist. Sit down really deeply and say, what is it about money that I feel bad about, or what does money represent to me? And really go to work on that. Because if you put the right mindset with the right plan, that's why people make $1 million in a year. And that's why I've seen it firsthand. So we can't sell the mindset stuff because nobody wants to hear it, but that's really the focus of what should be part of it. So we try to wrap that in everything that we do, is that it's hard to see anything that good that comes out of poverty. I mean, go to the projects and you tell me what solutions are coming out of there, and you tell me, do you want to live like that? I don't. It's like you get wealth, and wealth is money, and wealth is health. Wealth is all these other things, the wealth of relationships, right? Wealth to me is a symbolism of everything good, and poverty to me is a symbolism of suffering. And so I don't see anything noble about suffering, and I don't see anything bad about having a positive effect on the world, provided, of course, you accept that part of the responsibility when it comes to money.
In America, we love the underdog and we love to build them up, but then after they're really successful, we like to beat them back down. And I've been watching this happen with Amazon. They've been so successful, but now they're taking a lot of heat. And secondarily, a lot of these inexpensive products are made in China. And people are starting to question what effect this has on the world. What do you think about these two controversial issues?
So Amazon is not without its problems. And you hear poor worker conditions, people in the factories that are picking and packing, they're exhausted, they're falling over, they're fainting. And there is serious problems that Amazon represents. Anytime you get really big, there's problems that come along with it. It's never to be avoided. The United States wouldn't be as great as it is if it didn't have 8-year-old kids working 12 hours a day during the Industrial Revolution. Unfortunately, I really wish that everything was perfect and that it was all good and there was no downside, but that's just not how the world works. And unfortunately, if you have to always have everything pure to move forward and do anything in life and business, you're never going to succeed. So the real question is are we perpetuating the bad, or are we accelerating the good when it comes to Amazon? And that's a tough decision to consider on how you're going to operate. Because the reality is, I believe that if we go inside of Amazon and try to up the game and up the standard, Amazon, whether they want to or not, is going to have to follow us. If we decide that these are the types of products that we're going to sell, we can put a bad product on page one just as easily as we can put a good product on page one. But why would we put a bad product on page one? That seems like it would be harder. But if we put a good product on page one, how are we going to make that good product happen? We're not going to go to a sweatshop in China, and we're not going to have them assemble it for nickels and dimes and then try to get people to buy a bad product and trick them. That would be foolish. And so we actually can fix a lot of Amazon's problems by being the change that we want to see in the world. Now, I get that some people sometimes, their knee-jerk reaction is to judge and just be like, well, I don't want to be involved with this because of something. But that's so reactive. So my question is, if you have these feelings, if it seems so emotionally charged to you that this is a scary thing and I shouldn't be involved with it, then I would ask, what are you involved with? And in 5 or 10 minutes, I could probably uncover 30 or 40 or 50 or 100 dark secrets about that. I mean, the world is a very complex, nuanced place at the end of the day. And the litmus test for me is, if I was Amazon, would I run my factories that way? No, right? If I was sourcing from China, would I be okay sourcing from places that I don't feel meet my ethical code and standard? No, right? But I can choose how I do my business. And I can decide that if I'm going to utilize the backbone, which I have to, or the highways that we drive upon, or the pipelines that we run through, I can influence change better by being the change than I can about complaining about it or getting upset about it. So the challenge is, as Amazon gets bigger, just like as everything gets bigger, there are more problems that come along with it. But another word for problem is opportunity. And I would love to see people influence positively with this opportunity the changes that they wish to see as well. And unfortunately, life is hard and things are tough and it's complex and it's getting more complex every day. But if we let it get a hold of us and control us and react emotionally, that's not the solution. And instead, let's just figure out what makes sense for ourselves, our families. Start there, and then if we get that solved, what makes sense for the community around us? We get that solved, what makes sense regionally, nationally, and then globally. And I think that we can do that. And I think this is one of the first times in history we have the ability to do that. Because if I wanted to reach 10 million people in the past, how much would that cost me? A lot. Nowadays, you can post an egg on Instagram and reach 300 million people. But let's not post eggs. Let's be the change we want to see. So yeah, that's just something to consider whether you do this or anything else in your life, is if you don't like how it is, you have the ability to change it and get rich doing it.